Have you ever felt like no matter how much you pour into your audience through your content or how consistent you are, it still feels like they're not connecting? And if you're being honest, content creation is starting to feel a bit heavy right now. Well, in this video, I'm going to expose that heaviness so that you get into your content creation flow and you attract clients, collaborations, and speaking opportunities. I said to a friend the other day that people were always watching me before I knew who I was. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but those sales pages that used to come in the mail, and maybe they still come in the mail, but Walmart, Hex, JCPenney, Macy's used to flip through them and see what clothes they were advertising. Well, I did a photo shoot for the Walmart sales paper. And I did a lot of pageants as well. I used to model as a kid. Then I grew up and got into figure skating. So I was a competitive figure skater. And then I had done a bodybuilding competition. And now I'm someone who creates YouTube videos and does speaking engagements. And it dawned on me that people were always staring at me and looking at me before I had an identity in the Lord, before I had an identity at all. What I learned is that achievement equals approval. And that is the same kind of energy that so many of us bring into our business right away, especially if you are a high degree earner, an overachiever. You start to fall into this need for validation, this need to feel safety in other people being pleased by your work. This is why when you're creating content, you're looking for the validation before you even create. You start going into your head around, what do I need to say so that people like it? What do I need to say so that people are pleased? This is when you start creating content that is popular, but isn't necessarily what your people need to hear. Because there is still that part of you that is genuinely afraid to either say the things that people need to hear, or maybe you really haven't yet discovered who you are without the achievements, without all the accolades. And there's a lot of people that end up staying in this cycle of wondering, what is it do I need to do or say in my content so that more people buy? But the truth is, people don't buy because of what you say. They buy because of how you make them feel. And how you make them feel isn't just from the words. It's from the energy that is carrying the words that you say. And that energy comes from who you believe you are, because that is how your audience is seeing you. They are seeing you because of how you see yourself. And so what I want to do is I want to give you 3 things for you to start paying attention to so that you can finally create content that doesn't just connect with people, but genuinely moves them to want to make a decision, not just to go off in their life and do whatever, but make a decision with you to buy from you. Because there's a lot of content that might move someone, but it moves that person away from the creator. You want to create content that draws people toward you, not because they idolize you, but because you have changed their mind about the problem they're going through. You've changed their mind about the situation that they are in right now. And when you're able to do that, now they can find a solution through you because that is what your offer is. And so many people learn to perform. They learn to just put the filter on so that others can be pleased. But that takes you completely out of your purpose. So now you're performing, but you're not purposeful. And there's a part of you that just isn't being authentic. Well, let me say this. You're being authentic, but you're being authentic to what you think people need. You're not being authentic to you. And so it's probably why now you're noticing that sales might be coming in, but they're slow. Your sales are trickling in because when you add a filter onto your content creation, onto your words, a filter is meant to do exactly that. Filter. Not everything is going to get through. So a filter on you, a filter on your words means there's a part of you that's not coming through. And the part of you that's not coming through is the part of you that's actually going to connect with the audience. But you're afraid to show that part because you're afraid to be potentially rejected or somebody to not like it. Because you probably grew up very similar with a lot of achievements. Maybe you played sports. Maybe you're a person who was really good at something and got praised for being good at something. And so we get our identity wrapped up in what it is we need to do in order to get approval. And then we start finding a sense of safety through this achievement because what we're looking for is approval. We're looking for validation. I used to do this a lot when I first started creating content many, many years ago, very specifically in my network marketing company. And I wasn't aware about all the things I'm aware of now. And now I look back and I was like, wow, I definitely had a filter on. And let me know if you relate, but maybe you're feeling a little disconnected from yourself. That's one of the signs to know as to why you're not really connecting with your audience. Because if you feel a sense of disconnection to yourself, what I have discovered on my own personal journey is that sense of disconnection with myself was because I didn't have a relationship with the Creator and I didn't have an identity within the Lord. I developed an identity, but that identity was wrapped up and rooted in how other people saw me and what I needed to do in order to gain the approval of other people. Because everything was essentially a competition. I was always trying to win against other people, whether it was in pageants or in figure skating, even in bodybuilding. And so when I started to understand, oh, I got to go perform so I can win, I got to go do my best so I can stand and get my trophy, that same energy bleeds into content creation. And what you have to realize is that there is actually no competition in the content space because everyone's voice is meant to match someone's ears. I always say that God will attune your voice right as He is attuning your audience's ears to hear you specifically. It's why so many people can say the exact same thing, but the way that you say it is what they actually cling on to. The way that you say it is what they pay attention to because there's something about the essence of how you're saying it that rings true to them. So I'm going to give you 3 things so that you can help to create the kind of content, like I said, that connects and attracts clients, collaborations, and speaking opportunities. The first thing is to recognize your overperformance as coping. Now, when I say overperformance, I often talk a lot about being an over-functioning person because there is an insecurity somewhere within you, like there was in me, in thinking that I needed to do all these things in order to feel love and accepted, and my worthiness was all wrapped up in that. But you start to realize that you're over functioning because there's a part of you that doesn't love some part of yourself. There's a part of you that might think you're being too much or you're doing too much. Or maybe you're a person that has really big emotions and you're a really sensitive spirit. And so now you're thinking to yourself, I can't show that level of sensitivity. I can't show that much authenticity online because people aren't going to like me. And because you've grown up in this era where it was all about being liked, especially if you have an achievement and you got accolades for that and you got praise for that, you equated that with being liked. So now in your business, you're over functioning. You've got to realize that part of our job as content creators is to attract, but it is also to repel. You want to push the people away. Whereas when we are in competition and we're growing up in sports, the job is to win. The job is to get everybody to like and cheer, right? But there was never 2 sides. There was never a side where you had to attract and repel. In business, it's about attracting and repelling. And what so many of you are afraid of is the repel part. You're afraid of people not liking you. You're afraid of that rejection. So you first have to recognize that your overperformance is a coping mechanism. So I want to give you these 2 questions for you to really help take that filter off. The first one is, what aspect of yourself, thoughts, ideas, or insight are you attempting to cover up and why? I can tell you for me, one of the things I used to cover up a lot is just my empathy. And I'm not calling myself an empath. I just did an entire video around why I'm no longer an empath and what that really meant. I will link that down below for you to check out after this. But I do have a lot of empathy. I have a lot of emotions, but I've come to find out that I was just sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and I'm very sensitive to the atmosphere of other people. But no longer am I taking on the burdens of other people. So, what aspect of yourself, thoughts, ideas, or insight are you attempting to cover up, and why? Because that's what I used to cover up for myself. I used to cover up some of my real raw thoughts because I used to try to fit in with the crowd. I wanted to say something that was pleasing to a lot of people. But then you start to realize that when you please a lot of people, that means you're falling into mediocrity. So I was always in this tension of knowing that I was on the path of doing more, on the path of elevating my life, elevating my thoughts and my actions. But yet, what I was speaking was from a place of trying to downplay where I was or downplay what I knew. And what I had to realize is that when you are creating content online, part of that is to hold your audience to a level of accountability that they desire and aspire to be held at. But you could only do that when you're being true to yourself, when you're being true to the identity that God has given you, all of us, and the message that He's put inside of you. It's not to water it down. So you've got to understand, what parts of yourself are you worried about people finding out about? Question number 2 is, if you didn't cover up those parts of you, what will your audience be able to gain? Me covering up my empathy meant that I was not allowing my audience to truly feel seen, because it is my empathy that allows my audience to feel seen. Now, content is all about seeing your audience, not about you being seen. And when you grow up, kind of the way I did, which I'm sure you did too, with a lot of accolades in sports and people watching you, a lot of eyeballs on you, you are being seen. It's not for you to see the judges or see the people in the stands if you were playing sports. It's not that. It's actually for you to be seen. But in business, it is for you to see your audience. And so it's through my empathy that a lot of you will message me on Instagram. Feel free to drop a comment too, but a lot of you will message me on Instagram or even on Facebook and say, you feel so seen by what I'm saying. But you do that because I'm allowing my empathy to actually come through. But for a long time, I was holding that back because I didn't want to seem like I was too mushy, or I didn't want to seem a certain kind of way and be rejected for that. But that is the very thing that allows you guys to be attracted to what I do, how I teach, and how I serve all of you. We have to get comfortable with that, though. We have to get comfortable with these parts of ourselves. So that's why I say, what does your audience have to gain from you actually showing that part of yourself? Really, really essential. Don't think about what it is you're making it mean. Think about what they gain. What all of you gain is a connection to me. What all of you gain is an understanding with yourself because of the connection to me. What all of you gain is more insight into your own life, into your own business, into your walk with the Lord. You all are gaining insight because I'm opening up and I'm allowing my empathy to be shown. I don't have anything to hide, because this is what adapting my identity in the Lord has been able to do. It has allowed me to remove that filter, because if I'm being honest with you, I've got an audience of one, and that's the man upstairs. Am I doing and serving and pleasing Him to the best of my ability? Am I stewarding the gifts He has given me? I don't have time to care who's liking me, who's not liking me. There are people that need to be served by the videos I create. There's people that need to be served by the videos you create. So I trust that this is making sense. So that was number 1. Number 2 is recognize your validation over your vision. So you've been creating to serve yourself. You've been creating for validation. You've been creating to be seen. You've been creating so that people can see you a certain way. It's like you got this image like you need to uphold. So all the words that you say is a curation of the image that you need to now uphold. So you've been creating for people to like you, love you, and want to buy from you, which means you've completely negated the vision. the vision of your business, the vision of serving other people, the vision of helping them solve a problem in their life. So you've traded the validation, or I'm sorry, you traded the vision for validation because you had that filter on, because you haven't yet fully adopted an identity in the Lord. You haven't fully understood that this is even how you've been operating. And this is why content is feeling so heavy right now, is because as you get closer to wanting to be more of your authentic self, which is how God made you, the closer you desire to get to that, the heavier it feels to start creating content that just isn't of you. It feels heavy to create content that isn't true anymore. It feels heavy to create content that's just popular, but isn't moving people. It feels heavy to be taken out of your flow because you're getting closer and closer to him. You're gaining more relational depth. You're gaining proximity to him. And the more that you gain proximity to him, the more you can start to see yourself. The more you're like, I don't want to be mediocre. And you're willing to hold yourself and your audience to a higher standard, to a higher level of accountability. And so now that you're getting to this place, it's heavy because you're like, how do I take this off? What you're doing is you're allowing that flesh part of you, that ego part of you, you're allowing that to die. You're allowing that to die and allowing exactly the message God wants to come through you. You're allowing that to finally speak, and likely for the first time. And so what he'll want to do is he'll want to make you still. He'll want to make you quiet. He'll want to make you kind of shut down all of that noise where all you can hear is just him. You'll limit the amount of input that you have. You'll limit the amount of people that you're listening to, because in order to truly hear him, you got to get rid of all the extra stuff. So recognize your validation over your vision. What you want to do is actually recognize your vision over your validation, because you've been creating from this performative nature, right? Instead of from your purpose, which is to please God and serve people. So you want to show up like God has sent you and not show up so that you can be seen. Number 3 is I want you to recognize your self-edits before you express. Recognize your self-edits before you express. Anytime you're about to say something, I want you to pay attention to how much editing goes through that, how much filtering goes through that. Are you posting this or wanting to say this because it's popular? Are you posting it because it's genuinely what your people need to hear? Are you posting it because you think it's going to make you look good? Those are all questions to ask. Or are you posting it because, man, people really need this? People really need this message. That's how I feel about this video. People really need this message, because you don't realize that that heaviness that you're feeling is a heaviness that is you trying to carry the weight of this image so people see you a certain way. That is going to feel very heavy. Content creation gets to be in such flow when you don't care what people are thinking. You don't care if people are rejecting you. You don't care who's repelled. You don't care who doesn't buy. It doesn't mean that you go out here and say and do whatever. But what I am saying is what you're saying true to your message that God has given you? Or are you watering it down? Or are you trying to skirt around it? Because the moment you're trying to skirt around it, it's going to feel heavy. Because now you've added filter upon filter upon filter upon filter around what it is you're saying. So you want to start to develop the trust in your voice. The trust in your voice comes from the trust that you have in the message that he's put inside of you, the seed that he has put inside of you. And when you can trust that, then you're going to be able to say that message exactly as it needs to be said, exactly as it needs to be said so that people can receive it. Instead of you saying, what do I need to say so that people buy? What do I need to say so that I look good? It's not about you looking good. It's truly about what it is that God has put inside of you, because he's curated that message. Just like he told Moses, like, I will help you speak and I will teach you what to say. God will do that for you when you are abiding by his will, when you're abiding in him. And you start to realize you don't have to work as hard. The words just kind of come through. The words just flow. And you're not just talking about regurgitated information that you learned from someone else but you're developing an experience not just with your craft, but with him and this purpose that he has put on your life. So self-editing is what mutes that connection. It's what mutes the words that you're saying. When you mute that connection, now you're not making anybody feel anything on the other side of the screen. And people buy because they feel like it. People buy because you make them feel a certain way. Their natural buying desire is activated because of you. Their natural buying desire is activated when you don't put a filter on it. People are looking for real, they're looking for raw, they're looking for authentic, they're looking for truth. They're looking for truth. They're looking for a light to be shined in on a part of their life that has felt so dark. But if you are filtering your words, then you're putting out not the light that is needed, not the light that you genuinely have inside. So make sure that when you are creating content, that you remove those filters, and you do that by asking yourself those questions so that you can get to the true depth of what it is you're saying. So that way your audience can genuinely hear it. So the more trust that you have in what you say, the more your audience can receive it. And when I say trust, I mean you believe the words that you're saying. You believe the things coming out of your mouth. There's a posture, there's a certainty that comes with the words that you say. And when you have that level of conviction and trust within those words, your audience will reflect back to you, and that is what makes them want to buy from you. So these are the 3 things for you to recognize that is holding you back from creating content that truly connects with your audience and attracts those clients, collaborations, and speaking engagements. I trust that this video has served you and blessed you, and I will see you all in the next one. Watch this video right here. Watch it next. Bye.